So welcome, everybody. I know prompting has been one of the topics you all have been very eagerly waiting to hear about. Prompting is the science of interacting with the generative model on how to elicit the best response. And this is becoming one of the most, if not the most important skill that an LLM practitioner can have today, which is the ability to interact with the models and really harness the power of generative AI to the fullest. So let me get into the introductions.
So I'm going to start by introducing Pooja. Pooja is based in California. She's a customer engineer. She works with all of our biggest Google Workspace customers. She's an expert at prompting, and she has a great YouTube channel on the subject that I encourage you to go and check out.
Please allow me to introduce Serge. Serge is a Google veteran with 17 years of experience just at Google. He works with Google's most important global customers and brings the vital feedback to customers, to our engineering and our product teams. He's based out of Sweden. So let's dive into it. Today we're going to be looking at the world of prompting and the best practices and some exciting live demos.
So the whole week's been about AI. But we thought, just like an LLM, let's ground ourselves a bit. There's a lot of things that have come together to make a conference like this happen, and for you to see all this evolution of technology and all this innovation. You know, you started out by having neural networks that led the way to word embeddings, and then generative pre-trained transformers, combined with these immensely powerful data centers that have these specialized chips that can crunch all the math you can imagine.
Perfect.
And what really makes all of this pretty transformational is that for the first time, computers understand us. We don't have to do statistic probabilities. Computers can understand us for the first time. And it changes everything. Think of your average app. Think of your average word processor. Think of all the buttons on the screen you need to press. Think of the submenus of format, and then table, and then border, and then, these are all things that are there because you need to force the computer to understand you. Now that Gen AI is here, and Gen AI gives us the ability to understand humans, to understand me and all of you, it's going to change everything. And it's not just going to change Workspace and Google. It's going to change how you interact with your customers, with your users. And if there's one thing I'd like for you to take away from this session today, how will the fact that your systems can understand your users change how you build your software and services?
And generative models work on the principle of language modeling. Language models, as you know, are trained on large corpus of huge amount of data. Think petabytes and terabytes of data. And they use it to learn patterns. Now, language modeling means that the model is given some context, which means some large amount of data. And based on that context, it's asked to predict an outcome, and hence the name large language model. Subsequently, computations are done to train the model to predict an outcome. This is where neural networks and transformers and embeddings come into the picture, but we won't go into that today. That's out of the scope. We'll skip to our fun part, prompting. So now these large language models are general purpose models. Once trained on large amount of data, they can carry out a very large variety of tasks such as summarization, powering the chatbots, generating code, complementing search engines, and recommendation systems. Now, you might have heard about this term called tokens. Tokens essentially means the input size or the length of the characters a model can take to give you a desirable output. And these days, with Gemini family of models, the input size or the context window is getting immensely larger and larger. So you, our end users, don't have to worrying about the length of the input. It will work seamlessly with your files in Google Workspace and in Gemini as well. So let's take a look at fine-tuning. We talked about general purpose models, but let's think about if you have a specific data set, for example, your company data, but in this case, we'll take a look at an example of this cute dog, and we're asking the model to generate a headline about a dog.
It's an ugly dog.
It is what it is. about winning an agility competition. So imagine, I have a model. Now I'm going to show you how training on different data sets can give you different output. So let's first take a look at training this model on serious news articles. This is how an output might look like. Local dog takes top prize at agility competition. Good start. Now let's train the same model on a different data set. And the data set is evening newspapers. And the output might look like Fido triumphs with blazing speed and precision agility course. Great, a different output. Now what if we take the same model, same prompt, but train it on a different set of data? So this time I'm training on social media posts. And the same prompt, give me a headline about a dog, might look like this. You won't believe what this dog did to win. So you can start to see with different data sets, the output can be so different. But now with Gemini, we are training our models on all the data sets. So imagine one prompt can give you different output. And sometimes customers and users would come to me and say, our output is not generating the output that we want. Well, it is trained on a huge corpus of data. And with this example, we saw just one prompt, different outputs. It's our responsibility as human prompters to really tell the model what is it that we want the output to be, what is the context that we want a model to give. So let's jump into Google and generative AI.
So everything we've just presented here is a great, great opportunity for Google Workspace and for Google in general. So imagine, I talked about complexity before and all these buttons. Imagine having to integrate all kinds of services into Google Workspace, right? Imagine having to bring in YouTube and Maps and shopping and Google Search into an experience when you're creating slides or creating documents. It gets really, really heavy on the user because we'd have to add a lot of buttons everywhere. So we're really leaning into generative AI to bring the best of Google together into Google Workspace. So Gemini is going to be kind of like the thread that's going to tie all of the experiences together for us. The other thing that's unique with Google's approach is that when you use Google Workspace, all your files in the cloud. They're not on Pooja's laptop. They're not called version 3, final for real 2, and you know, closed on the laptop or in an inbox. They're in the cloud. So Gemini is going to be able to monitor your files even when you're sleeping and no one's looking at the document. So for instance, if you hit a sales quota, Gemini will be able to monitor the number for the sales quota, and when in the future, when this number is hit, why not send an email to the team, plan a celebration on Google Calendar, and even order a cake to celebrate. So this is why we say that Gemini is so transformative for Google Workspace.
And this brings us to Gemini era. You might have heard a lot about Gemini, of course, during the entire course of the conference, and we are on day 3, so we won't take this away from you. Gemini has been seamlessly baked in across all of our Google products and the applications you love and use today. So you can take all Google One approach, bring it all together with the same commercial protections that you get as a Workspace user. But we are here to learn about prompting. So let's get into the prompting and how it can get the most out of the Gemini era for us.
So prompting is important with LLMs. Why?
That's a good question. You know, some people say to me, LLMs are magical. So it is even more important for us to understand how they work, isn't it? And so the question becomes, how do we make this Gemini from a question-answer chatbot to more of a collaborator? And this is where the techniques of prompting truly shine. And you know, with proper techniques, you can also avoid the inherent bias that's there in the system with these models. A proper input can make a lot of difference. And you know, as they say, your output is as only good as your input, garbage in, garbage out. So a well-designed prompt will result in useful, accurate responses from a model and considerably improve your experience interacting with it. And working with LLMs, the prompt is really the key on getting the desired response. So let's take a look at it. Serge, shall we?
All right.
So what makes a good prompt? A good prompt structure can be broken down into 4 components, essentially: a format, a persona, a context, and a task. And we'll look at an example, but essentially a persona is what you want your model to answer you as. So I am a pre-sales, I am a sales engineer, and Serge, on the other hand, is a product manager. We both gave same inputs to the model last night, and it gave out little similar, little different output, but the model doesn't really know I'm in pre-sales and he's a product manager. So it is really our job to tell the model, hey, I'm in sales, so please give me answers for my quotas, for my attainment, and for Serge, how to really write a product requirement document as a product manager. The Gemini wouldn't assume that. For the models, everything is infinite, everything is factually correct, so it's really our job to constrain it. Which brings me to the context. We have to really define the scene. Imagine like a movie. We are defining a scene, where the action is taking place at. Is it in a boarding room? Is it at this conference in Vegas? Is it in Singapore? Gemini will assume the world and Mars and Pluto, everything is a fair game. So really, let's provide the context. Task, what is the task at hand? A lot of people start here actually, draft an email, draft a blog post for me, and that's where we're really shining at. What we can also add is a format. Do we really want to have 600 words, or do we really want to have 6 bullet points? Really, the answer could be anything. So take a look at an example. How many of you have started here with any chatbot conversational experience? Draft a cold outreach email, and then we say, well, the output is meh. What can we do to add based on what we just learned? Let's give it a persona. So I'm in sales, so I'm going to say I'm a Google Cloud executive. So now that's already getting much better. Let's add some task. So the task is already there actually. Draft a cold email. And you see I can switch the layers. I can put the task first and the contacts later, so that's fine. But what is the context really? I'm sending an email to a CEO, and he is actually based on the challenges in the recent months in the women's footwear industry. So that's defining the context. And my format, don't give me a big, giant blog. Give me answer in 250 words and use bullet points. So that's a really good prompt. If you're not using one of these things, I highly urge you start using that today, and you will see massive results, changes in your results. And to further your skills, you can actually add examples. And these are optional components you don't have to add, but we're in the prompting best practices class today. So examples are something you can train the model to learn from. For example, answer to me in a style of an earnings report, or answer to me in the style of a document I wrote last year. It can really pick the style from your document as well. The other thing is, don't be afraid to break down a prompt into smaller prompts. And especially now with Gemini conversational experience, it really remembers the context. So you can start with a big prompt, but really start adding smaller and smaller action items and follow-up questions to the prompt. And really, as I said, models know limits. So really, it's our job to ground and constrain it. So you can really say to the model, keep it factual and stick to facts. Do not make prediction. The other way is also true. You can ask the models to be as creative as possible. For example, unicorns on Mars. So there you're not giving any limit. In fact, you're removing the limit. So you can see the either spectrum of the limit works perfectly fine. And last but not the least, a lot of people have asked me, can I make the answer to sound like me? Yes, give it a tone, give it a style. You can say the blog must sound like an 8th grader. And this is really important because an answer for a math problem could look very different for a PhD math researcher, scientist, and the same problem answer could look very different for an 8th grader, but the prompt could exactly be the same. So here is where the tone specificity, tonality really comes into the picture. You can ask it to avoid filler words, slangs, if you want to make it professional and public-facing as well. So hopefully that's helpful. Now, this is interactive, so please yell out any answers, raise hands, everything is a fair game. So this is a test prompt. Create an image that shows sneakers at sunset. What is missing from this prompt? How can we make it better? Any takers? Persona, what else? Format, anything else? Okay, context is there. Yes, we can add it, a little bit more details, but I see you're learning really fast. So persona is missing, and as well as format is missing. So we have added the task to create a picture. We have added a context at the sunset. Given, we can give it more description, but it's a good start, but missing persona and format. Good job. So, you know, we work with a lot of customers, but Serge, where do you really see these use cases really shining, and what users can see value?
So I've been working with IT and tech for 30 years. I think it's the first time I see technology that shouldn't be deployed to the IT team first. There's technology, this technology here is so well adapted to people that work in marketing that need to create a ton of different content based on one corpus of information. People that work in hiring that have to sift through hundreds of candidate applications, find the right criteria, answer emails, acceptance letters, denial letters, and so on. Also HR that have to work with corporate policy and so on. So when you start to think, who should I deploy this technology to, think of people that need to create, people that need to handle a lot of repetitive tasks, like answering candidates, for example, and people such as me, a product manager. I have to write a product requirement document. I need to write a privacy description document, and so on and so forth. So people that really need to use a set of information and then create multiple artifacts from it.
Excellent. So let's get into it and show you the power of this stuff.
All right. This is going to be a live demo. There's no harness. So I want you to imagine a world where Pooja and I, we leave Google and we decide to start a company. We're going to call it Symbol. And for reasons I absolutely will not go into, we are both very passionate about women's footwear. Our first launch was a total disaster. Pooja had trusted me to do everything. It turned out miserably. We're on the brink of bankruptcy because here's the model I brought to market. My little shark shoes failed in the market. Nobody's buying them. Does anyone want shark shoes? Come and see me after. You want one?
One buyer.
All right. So we're going to do it different this time. This time, Pooja is not going to let me stray alone. And she's going to get involved, and she's going to bring the latest version of Gemini. And for a brand new pair of shoes, or a brand new brand of shoes to succeed, again, right, one corpus of information, and then be able to create a lot of artifacts from it. So let's go into it. Let's do a demo, and Pooja, help me succeed.
So we're going to see how to learn writing effective prompts by looking at how a marketer can use Gemini for Workspace in their everyday work. Effective prompts are absolutely necessary to launch a new campaign, to promote a product that has a style of fun, stylish, everyday wear sneakers, leading the campaign preparation across stakeholders, and also reporting success metrics. So let's get into it.
So we're going to start off with my laptop here, and we had a little bit of a brainstorming. Pooja took a picture. She sent it to me. Can we see the picture here? Please. Should I unplug and replug? Yeah?
Yes, somebody said yes.
Okay, let's try that.
The fun of live demos, everybody.
Yes. Oh, here we go.
Do a live demo.
Now it's detected something. Yay. You see? Okay, where's my whiteboard? Here we go. You see?
Amazing.
I wasn't lying. We took a picture of a whiteboard. Hooray. So now, what do we do with these pictures? Right? We always keep them in our photo albums. We almost never go back to them. But look at this little party trick here. I'm going to copy the image here. I'm going to paste it in here. And I'm cheating a little bit because I'm bad at typing when I'm in front of everyone like this. So I'm just going to copy paste my prompt.
Yeah. And Gemini is a multimodal model. So what essentially it can do is it can take multiple modalities of data. So here, when we came out of our brainstorming session, my whiteboard had some content, and really who wants to convert that into text, really? So let's use our Gemini assistant to really convert that and take beautiful notes for me. And just like that, I have an amazing output. But let's take a look at the prompt really quick. So Serge,
it even has a comment on your handwriting.
It did catch my handwriting. That's right. That's my real handwriting, guys, everyone. So I am saying you are an amazing digital assistant. Please convert an image into a text. So notice there's not much context here to give, but I did give it a persona saying you are a digital assistant. So it really understands that it's trying to do a job digitally for me, and we're giving the model that it's supposed to do that. So before I can even think of what needs to happen to launch a marketing campaign, I first really need to understand what's going on with the fashion industry in North America, in the women fashion industry. I want to understand the context of the market that I'm working in. And so let's really start with the help from the Gemini. So I'm going to use a prompt that Serge is going to type in. I'm saying I'm a marketer and I need information on 5 latest trends in the footwear industry. And notice I'm giving it a persona, I'm a marketer, but I'm also making it very specific by saying I need 5 trends, not give me trends. And that way LLM really knows what to go, what to search for, and where to ground and where to stop. It also provides a summary in the form of paragraph and bullets. So I love this output. I love that this is...
Hold on. I'm not a big dresser. I'm not, but what is bold dopamine dressing? Is there something I've missed? and you see, if I scroll down here, elevated comfort, the Y2K revival. Any Y2K kids here? I've been through it. Western inspired. These are actually pretty accurate.
This looks actually pretty accurate. So we're actually going to use this context and to keep moving forward with our multi-turn prompting. So what essentially multi-turn prompting means is we can build on our existing outputs without having to give the persona again and again. So this time, I need to really get more understanding about not just fashion, but women footwear industry in specific. So I'm going to give my LLM model more specific prompt this time. I want to understand specifically what's happening in the women's sneaker industry. So I asked Gemini, what about women's footwear trends in North America? And notice I did not give persona this time. And this is where we are building on the input and the output from the last time. And notice I said, give me in the table format, not paragraph, not bullet points this time. And this is true multimodality coming into action real time with the chart-like output in real time. So this is actually looking really, really great. I love that the Gemini gave me the table that I asked for. But what is the use of it if I can't actually use it in my docs? So let's export it into the Google Docs. And Serge just did that, so I'm going to go ahead and open that Google Docs for me. And so notice here, this is the power of integration with Gemini. Now, no more copying and pasting from one tab to other. Research has found the minute an employee leaves one tab and moves to the other tab, the productivity goes down by 20%. So this keeps you inside your Google Workspace application, not having to change your workflow. And here you can see on the side panel, it starts by prompting you with the summary of what is discussed. So you're not having to type, give me a summary of this document. So no more writing the prompt. Also, it gives you suggested questions. So now we're taking prompting to next level where you're not having to type the prompt, but Gemini is taking the context of your document and suggesting you what prompts. And you can also use it for self-learning. Notice how the prompts are already pretty well structured. And Serge just clicked on one of the prompts. Serge, do you want to talk about that prompt?
So what I did is I simply took its suggestion. What additional information could be added to the document and make it more useful for users of the doc. And I get the answer right here, and I can simply insert it into my document like this.
Well, we all love making documents better. I have been bugging Serge ever since last 2 weeks for this presentation to keep making the document better and better every day. And now I have Gemini as a collaborator, so let's see Serge. So now let's switch back to gemini.google.com. I think I have components ready, but going back to a whiteboard puzzle, I need to have competitive analysis done. So let's do this. I need to find specifically the top players in the women's sneaker category. I need to understand what symbol is competing against and what their marketing strategies are. So this time, I want top 3 competitors, their shoe offerings, their price, their target demographics, and marketing strategies. So I typed that exactly into the prompt, the top 3 brands of women's sneakers in North America, and I want to see the price range. So notice how the output is exactly how I defined in my columns format. It is supposed to be very prescriptive, but also the specificity is yielding a lot of information. Now, I love that I could keep asking Gemini a question because it's building on my previous output, but notice the prompt size is getting smaller and smaller, but the output is getting bigger and bigger. And this is where the output is so much more relevant and more impactful. Now, I feel ready that my campaign is ready, knowing what my competition looks like, and I'm ready to move on. But really, let's export this output into the document for Serge, shall we? And here is the magic again. Right from here, export it into the document format. And the native functionality here, it can also help you export to sheets, and it also saves your history back in gemini.google.com, so you can always get back to all your history at any point. So now, remember, we have a document to create for a campaign, but I also did some research on my trends in my previous doc. But really, who wants multiple docs all laying around in my drive? What if I can just call on my previous doc into this doc without leaving this tab? So here, Serge is showing in the side panel, I'm going to bring my top 5 insights from the trends document we created earlier by using @ functionality. And @ is the power function, my friends. You can call on your coworkers, you can call on files, and here we can actually call on the files in your drive. So that's drive integration with Gemini right there inside drive panel. It can read on the data from your existing drive files. So
I got a bug. I think I have to reload the document for the trends to show up.
Let's refresh the page. Refreshing solves everything.
Yep. What was it? Get me the top insights from, and then @ symbol, trends. No, it doesn't find my trend document. I've done this before, so let's just take it from my prompts.
Yes, it does get you the
This is actually, this is on the latest version that we haven't released, so there's going to be bugs. So now I've gotten the context from that document into my prompt, into this document. So now I can combine all of it together simply by injecting it.
Amazing. So as a marketer, I really have challenged starting a campaign from the scratch, especially in a new document. So here I want some help from my Gemini. And let's get started with the general structure in the place first. So as a marketer, I'm going to use my side panel to create a campaign for me. So let's get into the prompt for the marketer, please. So I'm going to write, I'm a marketer. I need to create a skeleton for my brief outlining campaign to promote a new line of women's sneakers. And let's give Serge a minute to get there.
You're going too fast for me now, Pooja. Hold on a second. Here we go.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask this into the side panel of my main document.
Amazing. So notice how the same prompt, which we used in Gemini app, we can now use that inside the Google Docs. So that's Gemini conversational experience embedded right inside Google Docs. And you can run the same prompts, which will yield a similar output. And you can immediately use that inside your existing Google document. Amazing. The output looks really good to me. I do have a skeleton to get started on my campaign. But I also need to get started on a tracker because I'm doing a lot of activities here, and I would love to get a tracker to organize all these activities so everybody who joins and sees my work can see where exactly I am in the timeline. So let's see how Sheets can help me with Gemini in it.
Does everyone know here that if you use a .new The .new domain, you can create new things, so like sheets.new, docs.new, slides.new, meet.new, so you don't have to go into docs and create a new document. Just a little tip, a good productivity tip. Okay, so now I will go and get my prompt here, and I'm asking it to create a budget tracker for me. So I'm going to copy paste, put this in my Gemini assistant.
So we see that the Gemini panel we saw in the docs is also now in the sheets as well. So similar experience, and this is also going to be similar in the slides as well. So very consistent experience across all of our portfolio of products. And just with that prompt, because I wanted to get a tracker, Gemini creates a very polished tracker with smart chips and color coding directly embedded right within it within a couple of seconds. It also includes filters and color coding, and it also includes the time spent per channel, channel owners, priority, and status. I love how this tracker looks, but also I need to start getting on my visuals because my campaign would be pretty sad without the visuals in it. So I do want to get started and create some images in the slides. So let's take a look at the slides, and we're going to use the same trick, slides.new, to open up a brand new set of deck for us. So here I'm going to use a prompt because I need to create image, and notice that we're using similar format. I am a marketer, which is giving the persona, and I need to create an image that shows colorful women's sneakers at nightfall with moon and stars. And I'm saying make the image in watercolor. And so really the more description you can give to the prompt, the better output would be. But here we can see that the output looks exactly what I had in mind. I wouldn't have been able to create even if I went outside to search. It is sneakers with platform and some moons and stars and nightfall. I love this image. It uniquely describes my style. So now that I have a better grasp at understanding what the women's sneaker industry looks like, how the competition looks like, and exactly what I need to do to get started and prepare for my tracker, I'm excited to start off a kickoff email to my team. So now let's take a look at how writing an effective prompt inside Gmail can help us get closer to our team members. So here I'm going to take the prompt and notice the structure here. It starts off with the persona. I'm a marketer. I need to draft an email to the digital marketing team saying that we start campaign planning in the kickoff week and ask everyone to come up with the example of their favorite sneakers and why. It is getting a little wordy, but trust the process. The output is exactly what we want. It's professional, it's creative, and it keeps your team engaged. And I also finished the prompt by saying, write an email in a fun and exciting tone. So adding the tonality and the style that we discussed in the optional components. It is optional, but always good to write that. So with that, our email looks ready, and we are ready to kick off our campaign.
Yay.
So as you see, by using clear and concise prompts, I was able to prepare a bunch of documents and get our shoes ready for the launch. From capturing a brainstorming session on a whiteboard to actually analyzing the competitors to actually tracking the activities and kicking off an email, all happened with Gemini in a click of seconds. Clear and concise prompting can do so much more, and this is just the beginning. You can combine this with the fact that Google Workspace combines information with the context of your actual data in the drive and the file, so you can absolutely be sure at all times that you don't have to type additional copy and paste material from the external websites. It will know your context.
I heard someone say earlier this week, this is the revenge of the English major. Right? We've removed the complexity in the system to do super complex things. We've moved it to using your own voice, using your own vocabulary. So yeah, I guess I'm outdated now. I need to go back and study an English major.
So thank you, everybody. Hopefully you could see how the chat functionality from just a question and answer can become an AI collaborator.